against a very practical background to try and explain what's happened from his moon. And they would have a direct line affecting each other. So you could say his Mercury in the 6th house was a need for him to express and communicate and understand the feelings in the past that he came out of. Okay, well, the past is everything before this moment. The personal unconscious, the collective unconscious, the dreams, the memories, it's all the past. From astrology, in this moment, the past is just a memory. It's not real. It's just memories we drag along us and our thoughts and our patterns that we imposed on other people. When you know me, so you got to know my past. Boom. Don't have to. You can just deal with something in the moment. It's much simpler, perhaps more wholesome. But we all have our baggage we bring with us, and we throw it. So his past will have a strong effect on his thinking. But his thinking is really there about being loved, being appreciated, being liked. It's conjunct to Venus. And Venus, what we like and what we want, that quality of choosing things and wanting things, and the choices we make of Venus, Venus always seduces the mind. I want this, and you start thinking how to get it. So his Venus is a really key thing here. Not only does it rule the moon, so the moon rules the Venus and the Mercury, but the moon rules the Venus rules the moon. It's squared by Jupiter, so it tends to be overindulgent and like extra expensive things. So does the moon Taurus, like extra. They're not cheap. They like nice things. Likes to want a lot of appreciation. They want to be needed. Want to be liked. So there's the Jupiter to the Mercury, Jupiter to the Venus. The wanting perhaps a little too much. If someone appreciated him, if someone liked what he was doing, it would walk past his defenses. And he'd probably, that being in a water sign, he'd probably make a pocket for this feeling or this nice or that. Like there would be, this is work and home, being able to adjust that this Mercury and Venus in the 6th house is how he responds to other people. So he responds to other people by how much they like him or don't like him, what's appreciated or not, what's satisfying or what's not satisfying. It's very interesting because with Freud, who was the sexual, everything had a sexual complex of what you put out, what you did or didn't do, or whether you rejected or not. Jung had the emotional, whether you were satisfied or not so much about what you do, whether you got it, whether you were appreciated, whether you're not. He was inherently on the opposite end of that. Looking at the appreciation of things, being sensitive to what's liked, what's pleasant to say, how people react to each other, with an inherent undercurrent of fear of being caught in dark or confronting insecure situations of being insecure. He'd have to have his education to get his knowledge, to get his respect. So the Venus is a little overindulgent and expensive and likes things too much, wants things too much. The Mercury is affected by that, but it picks up on the needs. I need this is security, and then the Venus comes on top of it. So making money, it's interesting that Jungian therapy is not for poor people. Okay, it really is an upper class thing, although it's become more globally known outside of the Jungian societies, but the Jungian society was very elite, and it wasn't for nothing, it wasn't cheap. People paid for it. So he'd have a good mind for money on that level, or sensitivity to it, and being able to get ideas, be paid for his ideas, that's a nice package. But so some of his depressions came around Saturn and not being appreciated, not feeling secure from the moon, ruled by Venus. His thinking about it, trying to understand those things, his mind's automatically tied into his memories. And his Venus, what ones he liked, what he didn't like, why he didn't like this, why he wanted this, like those things will come into this, to it, perhaps an excessive degree. That's it. There's no big extreme outer aspects coming in to affect these things. It's not a natural side. That's a fairly nice quality he has. He would be able to listen, adjust, and see what people appreciated and think about what would need to to be sensitive to seeing seeing or learning from those emotions, his own and others. I mean, if you're a consultant, you have people paying you to see you. People coming to see you are going to like you. They're paying you. They're going to like you. You don't have people hating you to begin with. I think he would have great difficulty dealing with someone who hated him to begin with. He wouldn't be able to do the consultation or do the analysis. Okay, I'm just randomly talking around the planets. We're going to the moon, Mercury, Venus. Now we're going to go to the sun. The sun in Leo, the rules in Leo. It's in the 7th house of relationships. It's important to relate to me. I get importance about relationships. So therapy, about relationships, happiness or not happiness in a relationship. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with the unhappy home? What makes it? All of these complexes. He would have an inherent sensitivity to it, trying to figure out what you can say in a difficult situation. How to help someone in a difficult situation. And he was inclined to use tarot or use the I Ching or use when he didn't know what to say. He would use some of these intuitive things to try and find some advice in the middle of dark or difficult situations for what was for him abundant success. To his practitioners, to other psychotherapists, it was a bit more of a wingnut. But his son in Leo, if he's going to, it's important to be married. He was married. He got his education, the Leo. He got his degree, and as soon as he got his degree, he got married. He married a well-off person who would take care of him. He kept working and made his money. He did things, but he never had to worry about financial support at home. That was the moon Pluto taking care of. But he got married and he was in his relation. Now his son squares that Jupiter too, so this creates struggles of understanding and misunderstanding. So it's important to deal with the misunderstandings in the world and misunderstandings over money and over trust. So when it's negative, there would be a guilt or a real puzzle of misunderstanding. When it's positive, there'll be an understanding of what's right and what's wrong. That's almost more of a struggle with morality than with action or sexuality. So the sun has one difficult aspect to it. It has that square to Jupiter, but it also has to square to Neptune. Both of them puzzle. Jupiter is adding a challenge of understanding which option is real, which way is right. There's a challenge to understand this way, understand that way. He certainly had that in his relationship with Freud, who had the sexual sources of everything, and he was seeing it wasn't just the sexual sources. It was what some of the appreciators like he's seeing feeding other things. But this conflict that's there with the Jupiter squares Sun, Jupiter squares Venus, and a strength of having to prove that he's going to be right or he's going to be good. It has to come out on top of this. So the square to Neptune creates more confusion or deception, more guilt and expectations around what's expected of him. So he gets into things to try and learn. And Freud was a teacher. We expected a lot from him, the Jupiter squaring his Sun. And Freud was an older man, 50-something, and he was building up he was completing his works. Jung was a young man just starting to learn. So Freud was not instinctively going to change his stuff to adapt to the student. He was expecting the students to live up to his stuff. So there were expectations. Freud had expectations of Jung. Jung was going to learn. He was learning a lot and understanding things, but there became a codependency, a conflict, a confusion. Freud saw things in a certain way, and it wasn't just the way he saw them. He felt things differently. He could feel the real practical side of things, but he had this Neptune square Sun, this evasive. Something's not as it seems. Something's evasive. It's not just so practical. In the house of relationship, that Sun to Neptune can cause dependent, codependent relationships based on, I'll expect this, you expect this, guilt, sorrows, confusions, interdependencies. So we have a sensitivity to that. It's interesting in his life. He was married all his life. His marriage stayed steady. But he had abundant affairs and other relationships. He was not exactly the most, he was loyal and fixed. The marriage was in that box of where the moon would be. There's the home and there's the box, there's the marriage, it's fixed. But who he would meet with at work and who he would do with other places, if someone liked him, it would easily go into relationships. You saw from the Mercury Venus, she's appreciates, like he's thinking about it. It's not bad. Well, how do you turn that down? There's this Venus square Jupiter. There's this Sun square Jupiter. Opportunities, oh my. And then there would be complications and struggles and his guilt and his sorrows from these complications, which are really, to him, it would be, shouldn't be anyone else's business, but he would be sensitive to them. So he'd try to work hard to keep these in separate worlds, home, work, hence the tower, a place to escape to, where he could still be himself, but there was this idiosyncrasy of aloneness, of evasiveness, of not fitting in. And you could say the impractical side of being interested in mysticism and unexplainable things. Okay, so it's funny, he has these two sides, one really, really, really rigid fixed moon and Taurus, and the fixed Leo, but with a twist to it, with that Neptune and Jupiter. Really, it's why he would like the I Ching so much, because the whole I Ching was written about going through changes, but not increasing your guilt. So he would have to live with the guilt that he had. He would have his marriage, but he would have his lover, and he wouldn't want the lovers to interfere with the other. He wouldn't want either to do either. And he's really in a compromised situation. In those situations, he would keep his worlds very separate. It's an interesting side to his character. It would be interpreted very differently in today's world than in the social world 100 years ago. So he certainly grew up in a European colonial elite society. Like much of the Renaissance intelligence was exactly that. Anyways, I'm rambling here. Now the Sun also, it's just out of orbit. It's not exactly conjunct Uranus. It's 11 degrees. So when Uranus is in the 7th house, we'll come to that. But the Sun and his needing to be like them, somebody who, if he had a student who loved him or a secretary who loved him or thought he was wonderful, he would soak it up and he would take it. And that Mercury Venus would thrive on that. In fact, he probably couldn't work with someone that didn't love him or appreciate him like that. And if they loved him, there was no threat to that. He would have trouble denying them. Or not, when it came to be more intimate, that he would have trouble turning down that greater intimacy. And then he would have to, oh my goodness, here it is, he would have to work. He'd see the guilt, the Neptune to the Sun, or the complication, but he couldn't resist the appreciation or the adoration. And then it would create a certain threat to the rigidity of his home and his family. So I think this was the complex, this type of complex, the complex that made him, as he got older and more successful, to want to be in a tower, more isolated, more alone, less reachable to people who weren't in an adoring relationship to him. Okay.